All right, friends, so you know the Steelers have been sitting on this contract extension all offseason. Nothing really moving, no real update, just kind of quiet on that front. And I didn't think much of it, figured it just done whenever it gets done. But there's some news that came out today involving a guy from that same draft class. And it's the kind of thing that could end up changing this whole conversation for us. So stick around, because I want to break down exactly what's going on and why it matters for our situation. So friends, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So here's the situation, and I want to walk you through it exactly how it played out for me today. Robert Kraft, the Patriots owner, comes out and basically confirms that there's an offer on the table to make Christian Gonzalez the highest paid player at his position anywhere in the league. That's the headline. That's what everybody's talking about right now. And my honest first reaction, I'm not going to lie to you, was we don't care. Like, genuinely, this is a Patriots situation. This doesn't touch us. But then I sat with it for a minute and I started thinking about who else is in that same draft class. Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter Jr., Devon Witherspoon, all guys who came out together and all guys who were eligible for extensions this offseason. And that's when it clicked for me. This actually does matter to us more than I wanted to admit at first. Now, my initial thought was, okay, most people already view Christian Gonzalez and Witherspoon as a tier above Joey Porter Jr., so whatever number they get, it's not really going to move the needle on what we're negotiating. That was my gut take. But the more I dug into it, the more I realized this could actually get messy between Joey Porter Jr. and the Steelers. Because if Trent McDuffie is sitting at the top right now around $31 million a year, and there's an offer for Christian Gonzalez somewhere in that $32, $33 million range, that's a real number. That's not a hypothetical anymore. And I don't know why he hasn't signed it yet, honestly. Maybe it's guarantees. Maybe there's stuff behind the scenes we're not seeing. There's always more to these deals than just the sticker price. But if that number becomes official, I think Joey Porter Jr. looks at it and starts asking some questions. And look, here's my honest opinion on this. I don't necessarily think Christian Gonzalez and Witherspoon are better players than Joey Porter Jr. I think the only thing they've really got over him is the reputation and the accolades. I think Joey Porter Jr. is right there with those guys talent-wise. But when I separate the two of them, Witherspoon is a different conversation because he's got the Pro Bowls, the All-Pro nods, and he's got a Super Bowl ring. I don't think Joey Porter Jr. has much of a leg to stand on if Witherspoon gets paid more because the resume just speaks for itself there.
Christian Gonzalez, though, that's the one that really sticks out to me. Because when you actually look at the raw numbers between him and Joey Porter Jr., they're basically on the same page. And in some categories, I'd argue Joey Porter Jr. actually has the edge. Think about availability. Joey Porter Jr. has 47 games under his belt through his first 3 seasons. That's not nothing. That's a guy who shows up every single week. And on top of that, he's got 31 pass deflections. People love to knock him for his ball skills, saying he doesn't have enough splash plays, not enough interceptions, only 3 picks. But Christian Gonzalez has that exact same amount of picks in fewer games. So if we're being honest about it, picks aren't the be-all, end-all anyway. And there's that stat that always gets brought up with Joey Porter Jr. He hasn't given up a touchdown since basically midway through his rookie year. That's a real number. That's not just talk. So if Christian Gonzalez ends up getting that highest paid number at his position and Joey Porter Jr. sees it, I think his mindset is going to be pretty simple. I've been a league guy since I stepped in this building. The only difference between us is I didn't get the Pro Bowl nod. I didn't get the All-Pro. And honestly, I think last year he was deserving of a Pro Bowl. I think he got snubbed. So from his perspective, the gap isn't talent. The gap is just recognition. And when a guy feels like the tape backs him up and the accolades just haven't caught up yet, that's exactly the kind of thing that turns a normal negotiation into a stubborn one. Now with Witherspoon, again, I think that's a cleaner story. He's stayed healthy, he's got the numbers, he's actually got 1 less interception than Joey Porter Jr., even though everybody's on his case about ball skills too. But from an overall standpoint, I think Witherspoon has more of an argument to get paid above Joey Porter Jr. than Christian Gonzalez does. So really, this whole thing hinges on that one contract, the Christian Gonzalez number, because that's the one that puts Joey Porter Jr. in the most direct comparison. And if what's being reported out there is accurate, then I think the Steelers and Joey Porter Jr. could end up pretty far apart in this negotiation. This could turn into a real stalemate. It could get to a point where a long-term deal just doesn't happen this year, and we're sitting here next offseason talking about a franchise tag instead. Because honestly, I don't think the Steelers view Joey Porter Jr. as a top 5 guy at his position the way some people, including maybe Joey Porter Jr. himself, might view it. I don't think the front office believes he's the one who's going to set the market. And look, that's not me saying he's not worth a big number. I just don't think the organization wants to go anywhere near that $25 to $30 million range. And honestly, I don't think they should.
Don't think they should. Now, here's something that connects right back into this whole conversation. Joey Porter Jr. was actually named as one of 6 Steelers players who would fetch a first-round pick if they were ever put on the trade market. That list also includes Keeanu Benton, Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Derek Harmon, and Nick Herbig. And interestingly, TJ Watt wasn't even on that list. I'll be honest, I agree with 5 out of the 6 names there. Herbig is the one I'm a little iffy on after his new deal. I think realistically he'd probably be more of a second-round value depending on how healthy he stays. But Joey Porter Jr., absolutely first-rounder. Harmon, I could see that too. He had a strong rookie year. Frazier, no doubt, he's one of the better centers in this league right now. Fautanu, he's ascending and he's about to be playing left tackle, which is about as important as it gets on that offensive line. But Keeanu Benton is the one that really made me stop and think. A first-round pick for Keeanu Benton, if that's actually true, that changes things for me. I'll be straight with you. I've said before, I wasn't really looking to trade guys off this roster right now. Even talking about someone like Hayward, I wasn't interested in moving him even for a first-rounder. I don't want to be making big, sweeping trades this year. I want to see how the roster looks going into week 1, let it play out, and if things need to change, that's more of a trade deadline conversation. I like where the roster sits right now for the most part. But if Keeanu Benton is genuinely pulling first-round trade value out there, I think that changes my thinking a little bit. Because if I'm Omar Khan, I'm picking up the phone and calling every general manager in this league right now. If somebody's willing to give up a first-rounder for Keeanu Benton, that's basically him walking into training camp with a different team by tomorrow. It would sting losing him. I still think he's a solid player, but with where his contract situation is heading and some of the questions around his fit at that position, I think you make that trade every single time. You take that first-round pick, you turn around and use it next year on another defensive tackle, and honestly, looking at our current rotation up front, I think we could absorb losing Keeanu Benton without it being a disaster. And if you're worried about depth for this season specifically, there's an easy fix. You take a 3rd or 4th round pick, you go find a veteran defensive lineman from a team that's out of contention, somebody who can plug in and play right away. And honestly, you could argue that a guy like Sebastian Joseph-Day, who we brought in this offseason on a shorter, cheaper deal, has actually been just as productive, if not more productive, than Keeanu Benton already. Keeanu Benton is getting the headlines because he's the one looking for the big extension, the guy we drafted in the 2nd round who's reportedly seeking something around $20 million. But if a first-round pick is really on the table for him, I think you reset that entire timeline at defensive tackle. You get a player with a higher pedigree on a cheap rookie contract for 4 more years instead of committing that kind of money to Keeanu Benton long-term. The only real downside is you're playing this season without him and without an immediate replacement in hand. But like I said, that's solvable with a mid-level pick and a short-term veteran. And that's really the balancing act for this front office right now, because they can't extend everybody. There's only so much cap room to go around, and every one of these decisions on Joey Porter Jr., on Keeanu Benton, on everybody else eligible, it all ties back into how this roster is built for the long haul, not just this season. So that's really where things stand right now, and I think this offseason is going to get a lot more interesting before it's done. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with me on the Keeanu Benton trade value and where you land on the Joey Porter Jr. situation. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.